Destiny. Have you been speaking with any Trump voters or people who voted for Trump?
No, not yet.
Obviously, we were supposed to do the postmortem, but I know you want to do that, and I wasn't around, so I might have missed some of the questions you probably have answered 100 times. But it was interesting because I actually know quite a few people who voted for Trump in my personal life, and every time I would ask them why, it was never something really substantive, but it was the most important thing to them in the world.
Yeah. I
It
think
was always
that
stuff like he tells the truth, or I'm just done with the swamp and stuff like that. So, yeah.
I think a lot of it is just kind of like, I think the language that people use to describe politicians in general is very emotive, as in like they might say a thing, but it's really reducing to some kind of like subjective feeling. So like they might say something like, I feel like Trump has good policies, but what that really means is just 4 years ago, they felt like their life was happier. It feels that way. Like that, they're just like expressing a feeling. A really common, I think, example of this might be, I'm pretty sure almost everybody was really happy to break away from the Soviet Union. But I think when you poll older people and you ask them, the older they are, the more likely they are to have like fond or favorable memories of the Soviet Union. But it's hard to know if they really liked the Soviet Union, or are you just polling a guy who's 50 and you're asking him, how did you feel like the Soviet Union went when you were 20? And it's like, well, the guy was in his 20s. He was way happier. So he might have fonder memories just because of that, you know? Like the language that people use is very emotive. So you kind of have to figure out when somebody says something, that doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that it's fake and it's irrational or it's random. You just have to figure out when somebody says something, what are they actually like emoting to you? Like I've given this example a lot, but it was funny that on that Twitter space we did, there was a guy who said that he was doing worse now than he was under Trump. Like he's struggling under Biden. And the reasons he gave is because they moved into a house that was twice as expensive and he had to quit his job to take care of a kid. And it's like, well, what the fuck does that have to do with Biden? And I wonder if Trump would have been president, I wonder if he would have instead said, Trump's economy is amazing. Like, even though it's a little tight, like my family is still able to get by with us moving into a house that's twice as expensive and me quitting my job to take care of our kid. I wonder if that would have been expressed differently, you know? So it's hard to say, you know?
Yeah, I think this almost feels like twofold. I think one, a lot of it is all feels. Well, it's actually the funniest bait and switch that conservatives have pulled on liberals.
Facts versus feelings.
Yeah, there was the whole facts over feelings. And then conservatives have just flipped it, and they're like, it's all feelings over facts, and it doesn't matter what stat you enumerate, doesn't matter what numbers you pull up, doesn't matter what study you showcase, none of it matters.
Yeah.
Over how they feel.
That's how people fundamentally vote.
Yes, but beyond that, I think another thing that the Democrats, I don't know if they can overcome. Wait, V. Gates, you want to say something? I feel like I cut you off.
Yeah, like that's how people vote. People vote with their feelings, not really by facts and figures. And like the reality is, Americans are a pretty dumb society. Like they just are. So Republicans are great, fantastic at moralizing, and they've always used this as a campaign strategy since the Reagan administration. They always do the most moralizing versus Democratic candidates. If you want to convince smart, like not very emotional people to vote for you, Democrats do a great job at that. But most people aren't particularly smart, and they really run on emotion. And Trump really pulled on people's heartstrings. Like he was talking about how he hates seeing like all these violent immigrants come into the country and attack Americans. Like that's a much more powerful message to your average voter than I'm going to give more funding to Border Patrol and border agents so that people can, see court sooner, like within a few weeks rather than almost a year, so that, if they do get turned down for asylum, they'll be sent back. Like that doesn't really mean much to anybody. But when you say, I'm going to make sure not one single criminal illegal immigrant is going to come into this country and harm an American, who's a dum-dum going to vote for it, right?
I wanted to ask you this, Destiny. I think it's impossible to beat anybody with facts now, because I think the trust in all the institutions is pretty much all evaporated for a good segment of the society.
That's true, but there's like I said this last night, 2 nights ago, there's probably a world where the answer is actually just really boring. And it's just that in 2020, like COVID was and everything was so they were going to vote for whoever was running against Trump. And then in 2024, people felt the effects of inflation, things expensive, so they were going to vote whoever ran against Biden. Like, it might just be like that. I think it's probably more reducible to that than any other thing. I think there's a lot of stuff around the edges that definitely hurts. I think the media misinformation, all of that definitely hurts. But I think these are like your big issues that you're kind of like nibbling around the edges on.
How severe the loss was, though, I don't know if it's quite that simple.
Wait, do you feel like people voted Trump out in 2020 mostly due to the economic issues and COVID?
I think so, yeah. It was a miserable time. For some reason, conservatives are pretending like they can memory hole things like, oh, like it was great for you. It wasn't. Bro, this country was crazy. We were like, people were saying that like that maybe the whole BLM riots literally happened because people were locked up at home and things were crazy, but we like memory hold all of it. Yeah.
Okay, so let's say hypothetically this theory is wrong. Okay, let's say
Sure.
the world that your theory right now is wrong. I want you to brainstorm with me just a little bit. What other alternate theories can you come up for? Yeah, aside from just COVID, and then we're going to alternate every 4 years.
For why the Democrats won in 2020?
Yeah.
I mean, there's going to be other stuff that is like impacting things around the edges. So like Trump being an asshole and maybe he botched some of his response and the contradictory information on like whether or not COVID was fake versus whether or not the vaccines were real, like him wanting to get credit for vaccines that nobody trusted. Like maybe, yeah, I don't know, like stuff around that.
But I think you're discounting one thing, and I think this is probably the biggest one, is beyond just having a similar result after a bad economic cycle. This result was particularly different, at least in my opinion, just because of how lopsided it was. Like everything was lost. The popular vote was lost.
Well, I don't know if American elections are ever like that crazy lopsided. Like all of our elections are pretty close-ish. Like it's not like we're not looking at like Reagan tier losses.
Wait, do you feel this one was close?
I mean, I don't want to say it was close, but it's not like insanely like lopsided, is what I'm saying.
No.
What is the
Considering the candidate, considering January 6th, the insurrection,
hold on.
that was lopsided.
Wait. Why? Why is it not? It feels like a blowout. So tell me why.
Well, what I'm saying is that like, so for instance, like I think we lost every swing state, but like there were 2 or 3 of these swing states that if we would have gotten like 1 or 2 percentage points more of the vote, we would have won the election. Like everything's like pretty close-ish. Actually, do we have the maps, Vadim? We still have don't we have it still?
Yeah, we do have it.
Okay, so just from maybe my perspective on the outside looking, I feel like Trump made gains with almost every demographic, which is huge. I think it was the first time that Republicans had won the popular vote in, 20 plus years?
Sure.
I think Democrats...
Oh, well, I don't know. Did they for Bush Jr.?
No, I don't think they did. I'm pretty sure that was an electoral victory, wasn't it?
Yeah. And
2004, apparently.
also, I think when it comes to the Democrat side, I just think you just had a record low turnout rate.
Wait, real quick. Show me Pennsylvania. So Pennsylvania was lost by, my guess by the time this all comes in, was maybe by 100,000 votes. Or no, wait, that's a little more, right? Maybe around like 150,000 votes. And then do we need one more state? Would we have needed one more besides Pennsylvania to win? Do you know? Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin? Oh, and then those wouldn't have had to have been that big either. What's up? But all I'm saying is that, like, I just want to be clear. Like, when we're talking about, I know you guys can't say that. You don't understand anything. I'm just saying that when we talk about like a landslide election, like there's still, all of these elections are still like fairly close-ish. Like less than a few 100,000 votes would have swung the election completely in the other direction.
Yeah, but I think it also
that's not
discounts.
insubstantial.
I think that also discounts just the gains that Trump made also in like generally Democrat areas. Like the amount of the point swing that happened in New York, New Jersey, like there were like 12-point swings. They were predicting like Trump or Democrats plus 24, and they were actually having like Democrats plus 10 in New Jersey. I think in New York it was like plus 26, and it came down to Democrats plus 12. So they were underperforming even a lot of these. So I get what you're saying in some of the key states, like the differences were bad. But just across the board in terms of how he was able to reach people, the difference was staggering. And I think that can't be discounted. Yeah, you still won the state, sure, but you've lost so much that for the future, this might be an indication of growing trends, if not amended, possibly.
I mean, it could be, or it could literally just be that people feel like prices were really high, and then they wanted to vote for the other person. Like, it could be that too, right?
Dude, the problem with that is considering who Trump is. Like, this is after January 6th. This is
nobody cares about that stuff. The average
after-
American doesn't care about stuff related to like democracy or the Constitution or anything like that. Nobody. That's like not.
Yeah, but I mean, even after the case, like
The case was
so
civil.
much bad
Nobody
shit.
nobody cares about the court cases. Nobody really cares about that kind of stuff. Nobody's voting on stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't think that alone could explain the results and the amount of popularity that, you know, Trump was able to gain even in places like New York. Like,
I don't know. Maybe I'm just as I'm listening to you, I feel like you're taking it, not taking it well, but like maybe you don't feel the urgency at all in regards to the gain. And like maybe this is just a cyclical thing. Maybe we're at a point now where things are going to be shifting every 4 years. But if it's not the case, then I think this win is a bit more substantial than you're letting on. And I don't know. That to me is probably the weirdest part. I feel like if I would,
I mean, I guess we can see. I mean, like the thing is, like I'm pretty sure by the time this is all said and done, I think Trump had fewer voters this cycle than last cycle. Like Democrats just didn't turn out much for this election. Like that was like a huge.
Voters in general didn't turn out as much, but Trump was still able to galvanize his base and make gains in a bunch of demographics that were substantial. So maybe there's just a whole bunch of voters who decided not to vote, but Trump still meeting the same number is impressive considering that fact. Like, how many voters did Democrats lose for this election cycle?
So I don't know how many by the end of it. Maybe around 5 or 6 million. I'm not sure.
Okay, and I believe Trump is like at the same number, if just down by a little bit. So
He might be a
that
little
difference
up,
is
or he might
huge.
be a little down, but around there, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say this is an election cycle where less people were enthusiastic about the whole process and they didn't turn out. Him still reaching that same number is him overperforming in an area where people are expecting less people to turn out. No. Him also converting voters in different states that hadn't happened before. You don't think any of that is impressive at all?
I don't know how much of it is real versus illusory. Like, I just haven't dug into that data yet. So, like, for instance, if there are 100,000 Hispanics in one area and 80,000 voted for Biden and 20,000 voted for Trump last time, and then this time only 40,000 voted for Harris and the same 20,000 still voted for Trump. I don't know if if I would consider that a big gain. I don't know how many people are switching over. I personally haven't dug into that data yet, so I'm not sure.
Okay, so let's say the case is that he hasn't really converted much and there hasn't been that much. What about the low voter turnout for Democrats? What do you say to that? Because that's not illusionary. That's a huge substantial loss in terms of votes. What would you say to that?
My feeling is what I said before. I just feel like it's like huge economic woes. Like every single incumbent party across the world lost over these last few years since COVID with the inflation. Like every single, regardless of party affiliation, regardless of government style, like every single incumbent got destroyed. I think that it's just hard. Like nobody likes inflation. You go to the grocery store, prices go up. It's like one of the most direct ways that you can engage with the economy. It feels bad.
Okay, so they were feeling so bad that they decided not to turn out. Is that what you're saying? They were just not motivated to go?
Yeah, because you feel demotivated. Yeah, it feels like your party's not doing anything. It feels like you're not. Yeah.
Okay.
But hey, I mean, like I said, I mean, there'll be more people that are digging through like all the polling data and everything for this. But maybe some trends or maybe some surprising things will come up. Like Trump definitely overperformed in areas that people didn't expect. Things like Hispanic men, especially. I think younger people, especially. So I mean, like, there's always things here to keep an eye out for sure.
I appreciate that, Destiny.
All right, bye. Remember to hit that like and subscribe, and don't forget the notification bell so that my videos show up right in your feed.